Australia is Craig's full-time home, but in the summer, Craig, his wife Mary, and their two kids, Lucy and Austin, are based in Boulder, Colorado. The key for any athlete is not just the training you put in, but how your body recovers from that training so you can get out there and push hard again tomorrow. After returning home, Mary puts together a recovery shake for Craig with honey milk and assorted fruit and nuts. And after an 8-hour day chasing a world champion through the mountains, even the crew could use a little recovery. Next up, Mary prepares an ice bath to help him soothe his aching muscles.
How good does that feel? That's a shriveler.
It'll feel good in about 2 minutes when everything goes numb.
Craig stays submerged in that ice bath for a solid 15 minutes. Later, we had the opportunity to sit down with Craig to discuss the day, his career, and the importance of the upcoming Ironman World Championship. So, Craig, today you were out there for, what, 6-7 hours?
Yeah, it was a long one, and they're not all that long, but, you know, I think Ironman's a tough event, and there's no escaping. You got to do the volume at some point, and at my age, it's not the kind of session I do every day or every week, even. It's,
once a year?
Yeah, it's a once or twice a year type thing. So usually I do it once up here at altitude.
Right.
And that's what Rennie and I were laughing about today. Now we've got a 12-month league pass from that session. So, but it's good. It's good. It's not the kind of session you do when you're building into fitness either. I think you need to have a little bit of fitness behind you just to get through it.
Right. So you're 8 weeks out from the most important day of the year. And I've talked to Tim and Tony DeBoom about what they feel like before Ironman. And this is 6 months before the race. And Tim says, you know what? I can make myself ill right now thinking about what I'm thinking about the night before Kona. But I know you're a little different because you really come alive.
Well, I love the challenge. And I'm not going to lie, it's nerve-wracking. And I'll say this, last year was a very stressful year. I remember after winning the first one, defending the first time, it felt like a fun year.
Yeah.
Everything was fun, free and easy.
You've already a champion.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose.
Absolutely. And then I guess you go and validate yourself in some degree as an athlete by defending something that hadn't been
Very
done.
few people, not since the boom.
Yeah, and a lot of personal satisfaction comes with that. As I said before, it's one thing to win, it's another thing to win when everyone's looking at you and factoring their race strategy around you, and you're expected to win. To come through in those circumstances is very rewarding. I will say, after that, leading up to last year's race, it seemed to be a stressful year. It didn't seem to be as fun as it had been. It became more like work. And I understand the business side of it and the promotional side of it, but that had always been there. I don't know, I think, and that's why I marvel at what Paula did and Dave and Mark, because the more you win, the more the pressure builds, and the only way that pressure is released is when you get beaten. So this year's been fun again. You know?
I bet it has been.
It's been great, and I'm back to doing it for all the right reasons, and you know, I think it's just my personality. Last year I'd won a couple for myself. I wanted to win for my sponsors and for everybody else, and I think with that comes a lot of pressure. But this year, 8 weeks out, I'm counting down the days. I'm looking forward to going back. It's going to be a challenge for me.
And it's a wide open race.
Well, it is
what's nice with Chris McCormick not coming back, defending champion not coming back, which sort of sometimes, I remember when Chrissy pulled out last year, it was like chaos.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who to mark.
Taking Chris out of the mix, I think certainly opens things up. It's by my way of thinking, the pressure and the focus will be spread amongst 5 or 6 guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Germans are expected to get a win. Everybody's had great races this year.
Marino set the world record, then Andy came and broke it. The Germans, there's a lot of pressure building on the Europeans to deliver.
Yeah.
I guess Chris and I have had a mortgage on the race for the last 4 years. It is going to be an interesting race because I think last year it certainly felt like the focus was entirely upon me.
Right.
That's understandable. I'd won the previous 2 times, but I think there's guys now who legitimately, with their performances, and not just, you know, hype and speculation, their performances have shown that they're legitimate contenders. Right. And I've always felt Ray Lert was, as with Marino as well. So, but I think they'll have a lot more media attention, and they certainly will have the eyes of all the other guys in the race.
Yeah.
focused upon them and watching their every move.
That's sort of nice for you.
Well, it is nice. I mean, I think hopefully it'll spread the work a little bit in the group when someone tries to make a move.
Yeah.
It's not up... And I remember Macca saying that same thing too. As defending champion, by default, you're expected to close every move, every break, And I mean, who's dangerous and who's not? You know, last year, Timo and Marino went, and then Andy went, and you know, you try and shut those down, and then Faris and Aniko went. Well, they're all either past champions or top 5 place getters, podium
Yeah,
getters.
it's not like anybody who's just a cyclist.
Absolutely. It's not like someone who's 150th on the GC.
Right.
It's a yellow jersey contender.
Exactly.
Taking off.
You got to go after them.
Absolutely, and I think that responsibility usually falls to the defending champion. So this year, it's going to be an interesting race. Without the defending champion, it certainly opens things up a lot, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
You've gone back a long way with Chris McCormick. You guys, you know, in the sport in Australia, and for the last 4 titles, you guys have won all 4 of them between the 2 of you. Did he surprise you last year?
He did. I'm not going to lie, he did. I thought he would be competitive. I wasn't writing him off like a lot of people were.
Right.
I mean, he had the race of his life.
No question.
So after a decade of racing in Kona, you think, you know, from any athlete, you think you may have seen everything that someone's got to offer.
Right.
But he had another race up his sleeve, and I think he thrived on the fact that no one thought he would win.
Right.
And it gave him some freedom in the race to do things that otherwise, you know, in the past, the first 5 or 6 years he came in as a favourite, and he had everyone breathing down his neck. He had all the media commitments. Every time he sneezed in the race, everyone would change gears. And I don't think we can ever accuse him of not being a savvy racer.
Always been a good tactical guy.
Yeah, I think the rap on Chris is he can win races you don't think he can win. Tactically or otherwise, he'll get it done. And to be honest, it's disappointing he's not going to be there. For whoever wins the race this year,
Yes.
You want to beat the champion.
Of course.
And, I mean, I think, that being said, he has the right to choose whatever path he wants to go down. But, you know, I can see from a media standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, I think it's important for any race to have their defending champion there. Notwithstanding the fact you've got to respect what any individual athlete wants to pursue in their career.
Right.
So, but you know what? That leaves a whole lot of opportunity for everybody else. So,
And nobody 38 has ever won this thing.
no, they haven't. So,
And I'm sitting next to a guy who's 38, who's probably in the best shape of his life.
well, as I said before, I'm not one for figures and numbers, and you know, I don't know the stats on who was the oldest and who was the youngest. But you know, there's an old saying: if you're good enough, you're old enough, or if you're good enough, I guess you're not too old. So, you know, no one wants to be known as the oldest to do anything. But if that's the case, great. If I don't win, I'm not going to use that as an excuse, because I can promise you I'll be in great shape in October and in September from Vegas. And you know, I don't look for excuses. I just want to race and race the best people on the biggest day.
Well, your career has been littered with that, with beating the best people on the biggest stage, from Lifetime Fitness, the first 70.3, to 2 wins in Kona, and we look forward to seeing you in Vegas, and then a month later in Kona, and hopefully 2 more titles.
That would be nice. Hey.
1 out of 2 would be bad.
Oh, nah. 2 out of 2 would be bad. But, hey, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. But hey, thanks for having me, Bob. It's always great fun.
Great. Thanks for all your time.
Yeah, thank you.